everyone, this is Anshita Bhatt. I am a senior reporter and copy editor at Animation Express, and today we are here with Sean Mullen. So, Sean is an award winning animation director and VFX supervisor. He has over 30 years of experience in the traditional 2D animation and CGI animation, and he's currently the creative director at Assemblage Entertainment. Hi, Sean.
Hello.
It's very nice to have you today. Can you start by introducing yourself?
Sure. I started in the industry back when I was, 19 years old, back in, in the early 1990s. Like you said, as a 2D animator originally, and then switched over to CG animation on Stuart Little long time ago, and have worked on just lots of shows, lots of movies over the years, and am now just having a blast working with the team here, just helping them get to do the kind of projects that they've been wanting to do for their whole careers.
Can you explain your role as a creative director at Assemblage? So, what does your role involve?
It's always kind of a hard one because it's a little bit of
Everything.
a lot of
Yeah.
things, you know. At this point in my career, 33 years, I've worked with people, like you said, all around the world and everything. So a big part of it, it's actively making sure that everything that we put out is at a certain level of quality, is at the very least hitting the expectations of the client that we're working with on any given project, but then hopefully also exceeding and finding ways to make the project even more than anybody hoped it could be. Making sure that the artistic teams have everything they need to deliver the work that they need to do, helping do a lot of training, doing a lot of mentoring, kind of helping set the tone as far as how, like when I work with various supervisors in different artistic departments, I always make sure to approach it in a very constructive and positive, and we're having fun, way, like we're enjoying what we're doing, and hopefully approaching things that way helps to inspire them to approach their supervision the same way and stuff. Yeah, it's really kind of a lot of different hats depending on what project is going on, what the studio's current goals are, and all that. But
Right.
yeah, just kind of keeping an eye on all things creative.
So, your career spans everything from large studio features to visually bold and unique animated features like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. So, how has your view of what defines quality in animation changed in all of these years?
Some of that change in quality expectations has come with the shift in mediums too, like from 2D hand-drawn, like originally traditional hand-drawn animation to computer animation. Now, I still look at those old, like classic Disney films, Pinocchio and Snow White and all those. They're still amazing for what they are, but when you look at it from the eyes of a CG animator, the expectations now, as far as like how polished and clean and really refined the animation has to be, and you can see that there's a really endearing roughness to the old 2D traditional stuff that honestly you could not really get away with in what's expected now in CG animation. Specifically where quality is concerned, something that I think has really changed over the years, from an animator's perspective specifically, to be a really strong actor. Just because of the way that the art form has evolved over the years, any acting that started seeping its way into things was really just coming from the gut of the artist. They weren't trained actors.
Yeah.
So now, though, because things have gotten to a point where they're so refined, the stories that are being told are so sophisticated, and especially today with more mature targeted projects, the need for really authentic performances that give you a character that's got the same kind of depth that you would find in a dramatic live action film, that's somewhere that has really changed over the years.
And you've also co-written projects and you've been the head of story. So anything in terms of storytelling that you would like to share, anything that's evolved?
The storytelling that you find in animation now, I feel like it's changed the most drastically in quite recent years. if you talk to any artist in the animation industry for a long time, we've always been talking about, as much as we loved the projects we've done before, you're always talking about why are they all for little kids? Like you would look at stuff being done in anime and stuff that's much more targeted towards an older audience, not just older audiences, but basically a broad scope of audiences. Because the amazing thing about animation is that you can do anything with it. You can appeal to any audience you want. There's no limitations. So storytelling wise, I think the same as the acting. The stories have had to become a bit more refined and well crafted. I think they're less just a parable for kids and much more a story about real personalities, real characters that you have to feel an emotional and a visceral connection to. I think it really started changing with the first Spider-Verse. And then we had Arcane and these other projects that have really opened the door to telling more ambitious and mature stories.
So you've worked across some of the leading animation studios from around the world. So what is it about Assemblage in terms of ambition, scale, and creative capabilities that made it compelling for you to join the studio?
I mean, one, just on a personal level, I've always liked smaller studios. There's less bureaucracy. It's much more direct interaction and creative exchange of ideas. I always felt like much more opportunity to wear kind of multiple hats. You get into it and you kind of have to specialize in one thing, but you're also really interested in others. Like I spent a lot of my career animating, but then I shifted and spent a lot of it in story as well, storyboarding, story development. I've done some design work on different things. And probably 90% of the artists in the studio here would tell you that they have interest in doing a variety of other things too. So I've always liked that at a smaller studio, there's just more chance to be a fully rounded artist. But the way the industry is shifting as well, there's a real rise in more independent animated films, which tend to have a little bit lower budgets, which is not a bad thing actually. And because of that, there are a lot of different production companies or individual directors out there who are just looking for studios to partner with. And I specifically say partner because with big studios, the tendency is more, to hire you, to give you, here's the order that we have, deliver this order and stuff. And it's much more driven by the client side. With the rise of independent animated films, there's a lot more seeking of a collaborative partner, I think. So there's more of a hope the team will not just do what they're told, but will bring something to the project to help bring it to the next level. And Assemblage, in what I've seen, is definitely at the top of having the talent and the studio leadership as well that really fosters that mindset of just a collaborative, fun place to work that is really interested in being partners with the people that we do jobs for. So feels like a really good fit in that sense. And also just again, with me personally, my background is primarily feature animated projects, also episodic, but mostly feature. And there's a lot of feature work that Assemblage has been and is going to be a part of. So yeah.
So from a global perspective, what makes the India opportunity in animation particularly compelling right now?
I've been working with teams in India since 2010. For the first couple of years, I was still living in Los Angeles and traveling out here every couple months to work with the team I was with then. Then I moved here to Bangalore in 2015 to work with a team there. The industry has shifted greatly in those years, and I think is in a really exciting place now. Like when I started full-time living here in 2015, most of the work that was coming in was extremely prescriptive. It was, you would get like the animatics for a project. There was no real room for artistic input from the artists. As the industry was shifting and studios that were clients in the West they would find that they were getting busier with other things. Maybe they had smaller teams than they used to have and stuff. So they started having to rely more on the artists here to have more artistic input. And over the years, that's taken us to the place that I was talking about earlier, where now the studios here are less, you know, I used to call it animation waiters, like what may I get for you, sir? You know, like and just give exactly that. And now it's much more looking for a partner, looking for somebody that has their own artistic voice.
Yeah, creative input.
Yeah. And the teams here, it's not that the artists have always had that capability. It's just never been asked of them until recent years. And so now you see a lot of artists that are getting to really kind of blossom into their full artistic capabilities. It feels like that's one of the things that's been really satisfying for me at this point in my career, is taking all the experience that I've had starting in Western studios, where I've always had that opportunity to have that artistic input and be able to help kind of mentor and work with the teams here to be able to bring the most out of themselves.
Right.
So, yeah.
So we've had some fantastic projects from India in the past couple of years. So we are already delivering a great animation at scale. So looking ahead, what role do you see studios here playing in the global animation ecosystem?
So I've already been talking about one aspect, which is that partnership. The other thing that I think most of the studios here started as vendors, you know, to clients. But the Indian animation industry has never had a chance to develop its own voice. A country like Japan has developed this really distinctive
Style.
That you see it and you immediately know that that's out of the Japanese animation industry. Right. The West has had, you know, the foundation of this sort of Disney style. Europe has its own sort of animation flavor. I think India is on the cusp of kind of finding its own unique, like, what is the Indian animation industry's identity, basically. So that's something that I think is really exciting in the coming years here in India. Right now, when there is an animated film that's made in India, it tends to be for Indian audiences. So I think finding that voice that moves beyond that to have universal appeal and be, or not necessarily, I'm not saying they lack appeal, but it's more universally accessible is probably a better way to say it. Because the films that are kind of made for Indian audiences, some of them can be a little difficult for somebody from a different culture to maybe understand. Right. Even some of the, you know, terminology might be, you might hear a word, you're like, I don't even know what they're saying, you know, and you like kind of miss the story point or whatever. So seeing how India is able to realize its own style and voice in the kinds of projects that hopefully are developed here and distributed globally would be really exciting to see.
So looking forward, what kind of creative challenges excite you most about what Assemblage can take on next?
For Assemblage specifically, and this is one of the things that I found compelling about the studio when we were first talking. I feel like almost more than any other studio I've seen, when you look at the credits of the films that Assemblage has been a part of, every film you can see like the quality level has literally gone up a notch. Right. So, and you know, knowing the projects that we're getting started with now, that quality level is continuing to just keep going higher and higher. And as an artist, that's always what you want to do, is just make something awesome. You know, you want to just keep doing something better than you've done before, or you know, it's kind of competitive too. As much as you celebrate the success of other studios and the things they do, and you look at it and think how awesome it is, it just makes you want to do something better than that, and then they'll want to do one better than you and stuff. So there's a lot of fun in just that constant striving to do something more and more compelling, higher and higher quality, and just exploring new ground that maybe somebody hasn't done before.
Right.
So yeah, that's the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to.
What kind of stories do you enjoy the most, or what kind of stories inspire you, whether it's books or games or films or shows?
It's a very difficult question to answer, quite honestly. There's not like a specific genre or a specific style that I'm particularly drawn to. I used to be really drawn to, oh, I'm starting this job because this is a super cool project that I'm going to work on. That was the big driving force. Over the years, I've found that that's shifted some. I still get excited about the projects, but it's much, much more important to me now who I'm going to be working on that project with. And is it people that we have like mutual respect for each other, we collaborate well, we have fun, like we enjoy what we're doing. Because when all's said and done, the film comes out and it might do great, it might not do well, or the show. Even if it does amazingly, even as #1 film for months or whatever, after a few weeks, it's out of theaters. And what you really have left is the 2 years that you spent of your life, making it. And you might have worked on the coolest film ever, but it was a miserable experience, right? So that's more, I think, what drives my enthusiasm for projects these days is who do I get to work with?
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's really just, it can be any style, any kind of story. I just want to do something that's really good quality. That's always the goal. You always feel like you haven't succeeded if you haven't achieved like your highest potential, basically. So yeah, still a hard question to answer though.
Any message that you'd like to give to aspiring animators?
For animators specifically, I would say focus on acting. I spent most of my career early on just in Los Angeles in that animation world. And I remember when I first was moving to India, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to be working with a whole different group of people now. And there was that aspect, but I also was still working with all the same people that I'd worked with in Los Angeles. I had thought of it as a small industry in Los Angeles, but globally, it's also a really small industry, small in the sense of the number of people working in it. It's not really that many. Right. One of the key, like if I'm giving advice, one of the key takeaways from that is keep in mind that somebody who is working for you today might be somebody that you're working for one day. There's a good chance you'll work with them again. It's really important to make sure that you just approach things constructively. You try to be collaborative. You have fun with the people you're working with, because you never know when you're going to work with them again, and in what way you'll be working with them again. And we're just doing something that you do the best work you can when everybody's enjoying what they're doing. That comes out in the artwork. So yeah, I think that's a crucial thing for everybody to keep in mind.
With different types of projects coming out of India, from mythology to science fiction, fantasy, is there any particular genre of project that you would like to work on?
I am constantly drawn to things like science fiction and fantasy and stuff. I'm somebody who I look at films and shows largely, not exclusively, but largely as like escapism. I don't. A lot of people like to watch really intense dramas and stuff, and I'm like, I'm in my 50s at this point. I've had enough personal drama in my life. I don't need to watch it on TV or at the movie theater. I want to go see something that's like really interesting, different, like something I've never seen before. If I'm developing something myself, I tend to go there in my mind. But another big influence and thing that finds its way into the things that I personally develop, I also have a really strong love for nature and like wildlife and stuff. So things that you never want to be like getting in people's face with a message or something, but anything
Yeah.
that has a little bit of a message of that helps build some understanding of the importance of nature and taking
Environment
care of the
consciousness.
environment and being a little more nurturing towards it. That's all stuff that tends to creep into the things that I like to develop myself. And this is a great country for that too. If you go to the national parks and stuff here, the
Yeah.
wildlife and the nature in this country is absolutely stunning.
That's so good to hear. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Sean. It was great having you. And if you liked this video, please hit the like button. And for more such content, follow Animation Express.